When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. He said, son, when you grow up, would you be the savior of the broken, the beaten and the damned? He said, will you defeat them, your demons and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made? Because one day I'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade.
Welcome back to the Cork Football Podcast. We had another Jekyll and Hyde performance again Sunday. 4-10 against the wind, and then to be outscored 196 points in the second half with the wind. There was no rhyme or reason for it. You could blame the kick out, black cards and complacency, but it was very frustrating. But there was something in the first half. I really liked how they played. There was, they really showed a lot of adventure, and their interplay was very good. You have to look. I suppose you'd have to acknowledge that in the league there was very little room for error, and there was constant pressure to grind out results, and they stuck to a kind of a tried and tested formula that was getting us over the line up front. But I definitely thought that we threw off the shackles a bit Sunday. We played a much more expensive game. I thought the fact, that we knew we were going to get the job done regardless, and I think because of that, we just showed that bit more adventure, and we showed what we can do when we go at it like that. I thought that it was our setup that caused us to play as well as we did. We just, I hadn't seen us playing as well as that now since the first half against Loud above and Drogheda. We very good variation in our play. We were combining, our structured build-up with some good foot passing. We're switching the point of attack. We were spreading the play from side to side, and we'd some early good long ball as well. And we hadn't been doing this throughout most of the league. And I thought the reason for this was the balance we had in our half-forward line. We'd Sean McDonald and Dara Sheedy. They were acting as playmakers, and they were attacking from deep, and they had their heads up all the time when they were on the ball, and they were willing to give the passes, and that was something that wasn't happening during the league. It was very frustrating. There was numerous times we'd have men available, and the crowd could see it, but we'd wait for support, and we'd go into this structured build-up. But we weren't doing that Sunday. If the pass was on, we were giving it. And I think it's because we had them two lads playing out and carrying the ball. We had Mark Cronin playing as playmaker for most of the league. And while he's a very good player, very comfortable on the ball, what his strong point wouldn't be going back into his own half and carrying the ball out of his own half with his head up. The other two lads have the strength to do that, whereas Cronin doesn't. And Cronin, he was playing in the inside line now the last day, and I think that's where he is most effective for us. He's he's a very good score taker, and he showed that again on Sunday. But he wouldn't have what Sheedy and McDonald would have in terms of, as I said, of carrying the ball out of his own half. and I think our play really benefited from this. But you could see then when Sheedy went off, we didn't bring on a like for like replacement. Conor Cahalane came on, and while he did fine, I think he got 3 points, but he's not a heads up type player, and he's not a playmaker. He's a runner. Very good at running off the shoulder, but we did really miss Sheedy in that role. And look, I know I said, and I'd stand by it. I think we need to be very careful with how much we're playing Sheedy, and I'll come back to that about how we should use him in Killarney. But I think, it was understandable when we were up so much at half time. We the job done as good as, and I think that caused a bit of complacency. But I was very happy with how our forwards played in that first half. Defensively, I think we looked okay. Now you have to consider the quality of the opposition, but there was no glaring deficiencies. The thing is, there's been a feature of our play all year is we are allowing opposition to get shots off, and it looks like we're content to trade off this for being more solid near the goal, and we'll just have to see if that calculation works out further on in the season, because we don't seem to be really willing to press up, and this look, it could be the right approach, but we'll just have to see. But overall, look, it was a hurdle that needs to be jumped there Sunday. Limerick have caused us problems there down the past few years. They're always fit and well organised, and they obviously they're very well funded and very well prepared. So they're never easy to beat. And I thought that we really went at them in the first half on Sunday, but and I wouldn't be too overly worried about the second half. Now, where does this leave us with a view to Killarney? Assuming that we take care of Tipperary, but look, I think we will do that. I thought, just judging by Sunday, getting promotion in the league is really after lifting a weight off the shoulders, and I think we are building nicely and moving in the right direction towards having a right cut-off Kerry. But kickouts are going to be crucial, and I think that we have to lose any idea of going back to Killarney and start dinking short kickouts early on in that game anyway, because look, given that we haven't had stability in that area throughout the league, and with the goalkeeping position being so up in the air, I think we have to keep it very conservative in terms of our kickouts in Killarney. Like, Kerry are going to go after us hard in that area early on, and they'll think all their birthdays are after coming together. If we start giving them, we'll just be giving them opportunities to demoralise us. And we're all too well accustomed to going back to Killarney and watching Kerry, just demoralising us with and a lot of it would be self-inflicted. And Kerry can really hurt you when they'll win turnovers up near our goal, and I think we'd be much better off if we go along the majority of the time, and even if we do lose the breaks, and we are losing the breaks in midfield, it's far more containable out there compared to losing a ball there on your 21, and you have the likes of the two Cliffords and Shawnee Shane, these fellas around, like they'll bury you if you start at that crack. But and I think Killarney, it's going to be all about staying in the game back there. We have to acknowledge that this is a very good Kerry team, and they've been on the road now 4 or 5 years, and they've 2 All-Irelands, and we can be calling ourselves kind of thinking that we're within touching distance of them, or that we had been in touching distance of them. The Kerry teams that we've been playing there with the last few years inside in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, like they're not even remotely close to anything that like they are in the end of the season. And another thing is, I think they're going to be wary of us, and they'd love nothing else now than to put us back on our arses. I think we have to realise that we're not as good as them. A lot of people know will get cross with me saying that, but we can beat them, and we just have to realise what we're up against. And if we don't do that, if we go back there thinking we're as good as these fellas and that we can go back and just start playing our own game and not adjusting to them, we're fooling ourselves. Like they're going to be hurting after that Donegal League final, so that's another factor. And I think just the further into that game we can go and stay within striking distance of them, I think the more pressure you'll be putting on them. And you can say this is nothing as well. There's a new cup this year for the Munster Championship. It's in memory of Paddy Shea, and like they won't want to see that leaving Kerry this year, and there'll be big pressure on them from their own crowd to prevent that. And what we'll have to do back there is we just have to keep building pressure on them, and that'll just be by keeping it tight. And just going back to the kickouts, unless they're going to give up the short kickouts to us, which I don't think they will, I wouldn't be dream of doing it. And fair enough, we might have to, if the circumstances, in certain circumstances in the second half, we might have to risk going short. But early on, I wouldn't dream of it. And it's going to be all about, as they say, controlling the controllables. It's going to, that midfield battle. It's just going to be about getting bodies in there and just fighting and keeping it tight in the first half. Anyway, we'll have to trust our backs that they can do the business. I think if they're on their game, they can, but they'll have to be on their game. Anything on anything below par, and we'll be in trouble. But we'll just have to trust them that they'll do that. I think if we're going to win that game back there, it'll be won in the last 20 minutes. I think that's when we should be aiming to have our strongest side on the field. And if possible, we should be playing the system that we did against Limerick in the first half, with Sheedy and McDonald on the field, attacking from deep. And I think we could really hurt them doing that. As I said, I'd be keeping it tight in the first half. I'd have no hesitation in putting Rory Dean and Paul Welsh there at 10 and 12 in the first half and just create a war zone out around the middle of the field. We press high on their kickouts and make them go long. And at least we know what we're dealing with then. I'd be sticking to our structure build up, and for going forward, be patient, and just getting Sherlock and Mark Cronin just to keep us in touch on the scoreboard, because that's all we have to do is keep in touch. If we're in touch within 3, 4, 5 points with 20 minutes to go, I think the pressure is really going to come on them. And they're not superhuman. They'll start making mistakes when the pressure comes on them. And I'd like to see us finishing that game the last 25, 30 minutes with Hurley, Chris Oak, and either Sherlock or Cronin on the inside line with Sean McDonald and Sheedy and Paul Welch in the half-forward line, and possibly Corbett for the last 15 minutes. I was very impressed with Corbett on Sunday when he came on. He was moving very well, and he can, when he's, the difference between the Corbett and the likes of Paul Welsh and Rory Dean is Corbett, when he's travelled, he can travel at pace, but the head is up all the time, and he's watching the offload all the time. Whereas the other two, they're good, strong players, but they just don't have that vision. He was moving very well Sunday, I thought, and he was like a fella on rails. And the head up, I think that if we could get him there on the field for the last 15 minutes, I think he could be huge plus for us. So I think it's going to be all about how we approach Kerry strategically. As I said, we're just going to have to swallow our pride, set up conservatively, but and not think we can go toe to toe with Kerry playing football and turn it into a shootout, because they'll eat us up. We have to give them the respect they deserve and set up accordingly to give ourselves a chance at beating them. So look, that's what I could see coming from the Limerick game. I think there was positives in it. I think it's a good template for how we can go after a team and how we can set up to go after a team if we need to. I think we can see now that we can play conservatively. We can play with a bit of expansion and a bit of adventure. I think we've good balance there, and I'd be really hopeful about going down to Killarney if we can combine all those qualities and employ them in the right circumstances. So that's the all I have to say now about the Limerick game. Our under 20s are playing on Thursday night inside in Park Keith, and I'll be going into that. So I'll probably do something on that maybe over the weekend, and I'll leave it there. So good night and God bless.